Hello, my name is Mark Schaefer. I'm going to introduce you to the ARGOtext smartwatch keyboard. It is actually the only keyboard that is self-typing on a smartwatch. I want First, let me summarize what's going to happen in this presentation. First, I'll explain what we can do with the solution. The solution should amaze you. You'll think it's impossible. And that's what we want you to think in part one. In part two, we'll explain how we solve the problem of typing on a watch really efficiently. And then the third part that we'll go over today is why. In other words, what are really the market benefits and why is this really a disruptive technology in many ways? So this is part one where we show you how things are impossible. First of all, it's fast. It's 3 fingers typing. That's why it's faster. And it's one touch typing on a full QWERTY keyboard. It's important to note here that it approaches speeds on a watch that most people will accomplish on their phones. So it's really that fast. It's accurate because the keys are large, maybe even larger than a phone's, and they're also tactile keys. That makes it accurate. It's ergonomic because it's a natural hand position. It seems impossible for adult hands to do that on a tiny watch. We've accomplished that. Unobstructed view. I've been to seminars where they say that's impossible, but this is typing without the fingers actually covering the screen, the very small view screen. There's actually a cursor. We're using touch technology, so there's a cursor off the screen that's highly effective. Multiple character screens, I like to point that out. People don't realize that just like on a phone with ARGOtext, you can have similar multiple character screens for like numbers and symbols. This is also an interesting time to mention the autocorrect. It'll also work with autocorrect, saves battery in the sense that if your smartwatch can only type messages with voice recognition, you're going to use a lot more battery power during your activities. And of course, the amazing thing is that we fit a full QWERTY keyboard on a smartwatch. So I hope we impressed you on how impossible all these things seem to be. And now we're going to show you how we did it. And that's going to be part two of the discussion. We took common touch sensors like you see on an iPhone, and we put them on 2 levels on either side of the watch. That's 4 levels on either side of the watch, and they correspond to the 4 rows of a QWERTY keyboard. So notice that all the letters of the keyboard are grouped in groups of 3. And with that knowledge, we're ready to show you how to type. You touch a touch sensor adjacent to a group of 3 letters, and you simply slide towards the letter you want to type. In this case, we slid left towards the T. If you wanted to type the U, you touch adjacent to the group of 3 letters, slide to the right towards the U, you just type the U. If you want to touch the middle letter, you slide up the middle towards the screen, and that just typed a Y. Here's a demonstration. First typing on an operating prototype. You'll see me type "we did it." The system is fast because we're using 3 fingers to type instead of the 1 finger that's expected to type. Here I am typing ARGOtext for the first time. The second demonstration is on a 3D plastic model, and it's meant to show the potential of the system on a full operating consumer product. You'll notice that the letters are coming up relatively fast and my fingers are moving relatively slowly. Now for the third and final section, why. This is important. It's a disruptive capability, and a lot of the industry is under the assumption you can't type on a watch, so it hasn't explored the implications. The next generation of smartwatches is going to connect directly to the net. There's no such thing as an independent communications platform that doesn't have a keyboard to enter these things. We're looking at the importance of texting. We all know that, both to businesses and consumers. Let's look at millennials for all the reasons that they need a keyboard. Data entry is particularly interesting because that also applies to a lot of verticals where there's data that has to be entered under conditions where voice isn't appropriate. So it applies to business, not just millennials. Voice recognition and typing actually don't compete with each other. They'll always work together like they do today. And as voice recognition improves with handling noise and mistranslations, the privacy issue still won't go away. And also intruding on others around you, that's always going to be a problem. So the critical insight is that people will not use their independent net-connected watches without bringing along their phone if they can't type on it. They won't do it for an hour, for an evening, for actually an afternoon, day, without their smartwatch keyboard. So it's very critical to the next generation of independent watches that they have a keyboard. This is a review of all the things that seemed impossible that ARGOtext accomplishes very simply. It's an elegant solution. But when you have something that's outside the box, something this disruptive, something this unexpected, there are a lot of questions that people haven't had a chance to think through and answer. I have some of the answers, of course, not all. So the learning curve comes up a lot. The learning curve is 30 seconds. You already learned it, and I proved that to you. Proficiency curve. How fast can people get on this? They get as fast as they do most people on their phones, and it takes about 60 repetitions. This is not a lot when the goal is typing on your independent watch. People are leery about alternative keyboards sometimes, so this is a full QWERTY keyboard, or it's a standard keyboard in any language. Actually, it's easy to convert. That's just programming, nothing to do with the hardware. But the reason I say it's the only keyboard, not an alternative keyboard, is because it really is the only solution where you could type this efficiently on a smartwatch. Ergonomics versus technology. The hard part is the ergonomics. How do you get adult hands to type on a smartwatch? That's been solved. The technological hurdles are relatively small compared to that. Now let's talk about return on investment. There's really two phases to that. The first phase has to do with producing a simple peripheral based on software and touch sensors in a specific arrangement. The interesting part is part two. How does this affect the entire watch market? If you have a keyboard that people can use efficiently to enter text, this really has an effect on smartwatch sales for the next generation of independent watches. So the significance of the return on investment is not just for the peripheral itself, but also how it affects the market and the use case of smartwatches. So to review, I showed the problems that ARGOtext solves. I showed you how it solved it. It's a very efficient and elegant solution, and I showed you why there's a lot of value in increasing the input. And if you would like to follow up, please give me a call. My name is Mark Schaefer. I'm the CEO and founder of ARGOtext, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about the smartwatch keyboard.